What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. My name is DJ Ligori, and today we are on episode number 171 in Thanksgiving week. All right, big week for everybody. I hope we all have some nice Thanksgiving plans. I hope we did all of our Friendsgivings and all the fun things that these festive times bring. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about discipline, which is probably the last thing that you want to probably think about on Thanksgiving, because there's going to be a lot of food options, and some of those options are probably not going to be that healthy. And so you might not want to take a ton of what I say today into your Thanksgiving day, but maybe what you want to take what I say today into is 2025, right? And how you operate when it comes to how disciplined you are with the behaviors that you want to be disciplined to. And I saw a video once of this guy who was in great shape. And he was like, a lot of people ask me, like, what's the secret to being in good shape? And how do I get to this percentage of body fat? And how do I look like this? And he's like, some people just got it. And he goes, I got it. And I remember watching this being like, thanks, man. That's super helpful. Like, that's really exactly what I needed to hear. And obviously that's very condescending, but the guy continued on with the video. He's like, in all seriousness, he's like, some people are just good at a certain thing. And he's like, when it comes to the way that I look, he's like, whether it's body fat percentage, whether it's muscle, right, athleticism, he's like, a lot of this is because of genes, right, and the way that like my parents were and things like that and upbringing. He's like, some of the things I'm just good at. He's like, I'm good at my nutrition. He's like, I'm good at exercising. And I think underlying, right, there's a lot of underlying discipline and certain behaviors that you could probably dive into. But on the surface, right, we can represent it as like there's certain things that we might just be better at than others, right? And that's like okay, right? There's a lot of people out there who are better at cooking, better at baking than me, better at building houses than me, or fixing a car than me. And that's okay. Yet there's also some things that I'm probably better at than them. And that's life, right? We kind of need that, right? When it comes to trading and when it comes to, right, finding the who, not the how. And what I wanted to when I heard that video, I was like, I wonder if there's anything in my life that I kind of can associate with, like, maybe I just got it, right? Maybe that's something that is just important to me. And I think there is something that I might just have, yet I think it came from a certain belief or a certain thing that I wanted to try and avoid. And so a lot of the times when people talk about discipline and consistency, right? And remember, consistency is just the repetition of a behavior. Discipline is basically making a decision to do a certain behavior. And you have to be disciplined in order to be consistent. Now, when it comes to the things that I'm disciplined with, typically it's because I really want to avoid something. And typically, those things that I want to avoid are like these big pains and these very deep-seated beliefs about myself that are probably not true, yet I, more often than not, seem to make them true. And in order for me to make those beliefs less true, I stay disciplined to certain behaviors, right? And like, I'll give you an example. I've been disciplined to exercise literally my whole life. There was one time I can remember in my life when I didn't exercise, and it was my freshman year of college. The only exercising that freshman year of college, my first semester, the only exercising that I did was for our football workouts, which were maybe once or twice a week during season, just for maintenance type of stuff. And then I didn't exercise at all additionally. And I remember I had a girlfriend during that time, and I was thinking, why do I need to look a certain way? Right? I already got a girlfriend, right? I don't have to look strong and look attractive and everything. And that is one of the biggest mistakes that any man can make. But that's what I fell into. And I remember that was like 3 months of me not, working out. And it was awful once I actually realized, geez, I've lost a lot of progress here. And the thing that I realized when I was like starting to really break down, like, all right, well, why am I so disciplined to working out after that 3-month hiatus? Because from that point on, that was 2013, right? Over 10 years ago, I've never stopped working out like consistently on a weekly basis. Like I can probably count on one hand the amount of workouts that I've missed. And I'm not saying that to sound arrogant, right? Kind of like the guy in this other video, he's like, hey, I just kind of like got this. Like, this is just part of me. This is kind of like the same thing when it comes to exercising and now reading and eating a certain way and going to bed at a certain time. The thing with exercise was that really bad pain was this belief that I was physically weak, which I've talked about before, right? I had that graphic injury to my left elbow when I was a young kid. And when they took the cast off, I looked down and created this belief in my head that I was physically weak because of the new arm that God had blessed me with, right? And my journey, one of those journeys became, all right, I'm going to figure out how to be physically fit, how to be physically strong. And that then in my head made me believe that I needed to be a leader to not only my friends, my family, but my teammates, because I thought leaders were physically strong. And that behavior was really just to constantly avoid that pain and to avoid that belief. And still to this day, when I don't work out, I feel like I'm like, and it's wild to even say this out loud, I feel like I'm drifting closer towards that belief, right? Oh, you're physically weak because you didn't work out today, right? When I actually had a workout plan and I decided to be lazy and not do it, which as I mentioned, I don't really do anymore, right? Because of that pain. And so when it comes to being disciplined, is there a part of me that says you either got it or you don't? I don't know. Do I think discipline can be taught? I think discipline can be taught if the right level of motivation is found in an individual. And a lot of the times that motivation actually might come from some pain. It might come from trying to avoid something and then trying to become something else. And I think if you look at your life and you're like, hey, I'm good with what I have, you're probably not going to start looking for new challenging behaviors, right? Like if you're like, yeah, like I'm good, right? I'm content. If you want to be that person, that's fine, right? Yet you're probably not going to be doing hard things. You're probably not going to be going after big projects, big goals, whatever. Yet if you are somebody who you are enough in that moment, yet still excited to be more the next day because you have goals, right? You have different aspirations. You're probably going to want to try and stay on certain paths. When you're trying to figure out how to be more disciplined or better with your discipline, ask yourself, what is the pain or the thing that I'm trying to avoid? And if it isn't painful enough, and Simon Sinek has talked about, defining your why. Stephen Bartlett, I was listening to a podcast this morning with him on it, right? And he said he wasn't disciplined with a certain behavior because his why wasn't strong enough. That why is kind of like that pain, right? If there isn't anything that is painful enough or big enough or have a big enough why power, we might not stay on that path, which it makes total sense as human beings. It's like, well, why would I, right? If there isn't enough pain, why would I move, right? If there isn't enough discomfort, why would I move? Yet I think there's a very unique type of individual who actually intentionally goes and seeks out discomfort. And that's something that I've had to actually figure out when I get to these comfortable levels of my life and I'm like, I'm a little too comfortable right now, right? My finances are great. Personal life's great. Professional life's great. It's like, I got to go start gnawing on something, right? I got to go create a little bit of friction, a little bit of tension, a challenge to go after, right? We're human. Brian Johnson, who's the creator of the Optimize and the Heroic program, which is the first program I ever went through, so good, stated that human beings, somebody else had stated this and then he restated, human beings, we work better when we have targets. We're teleological human beings, right? So if we have these targets, if we have these commitments and we make them hard and we make them challenging and it requires discipline to actually go achieve those things, then we have to actually look backwards and be like, well, what's the thing, what was the belief or what's the pain or what's the challenge that I'm trying to not experience that's going to cause me to stay in that disciplined behavior towards those goals and those commitments, all right? So think about that when you get pissed off that you're not being disciplined or you get pissed off that you're struggling with consistency. Ask yourself, what am I actually trying to avoid? And if it isn't painful enough, if there isn't enough agitation, it makes total sense then. It's actually not painful enough for me to actually stay on this path, right? So then I would ask, well, how can you actually make it more painful, right? How can you actually create more accountability to that's going to even pull you more into that new desired behavior, right? That's how you can create this idea of, hey, I got it, by actually creating a little bit of agitation or a catalyst to actually keep you in that behavior and disciplined. So I hope that this message was valuable. As I mentioned, you're probably not going to be too disciplined on Thanksgiving. I know I won't. I'm going to have a little bit of fun. But think about this message, right, as kind of December rolls into the new year, right? And we want to be disciplined to certain behaviors, all right? So thank you guys so much for your time, your energy, and your attention. And until next time, keep doing hard things, and we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll see you.